I was standing in the street after the F5 moved north when another tornado dropped down on top of us. It touched ground in the field next to us and went north. OMG, I remember this. Could see it from our house on Division Street, and it was south of 30 at that point. So afraid for a good friend that lived in Jordan. Scary, scary day. I remember this very well. I was living in North Ames and saw the three tornadoes roaring north to the west of us. I was only 6 years old, but remember it like it was yesterday. One of these tornadoes hit my friend's house south of Gilbert and moved it 3 feet off the foundation. These vivid accounts and more were publicly posted on the U.S. National Weather Service Des Moines, Iowa Facebook page on a post about the monstrous F5 tornado that tore apart almost the entire city of Jordan, Iowa. This sounds terrifying, and I applaud them for coming forward with these hard memories. That's a brave thing for anyone to do. These first-hand accounts people have are always more visceral to read about. And I had a lot of folks share their stories on my Xenia, Ohio tornado video, and they always just make it feel so much more real than reading reports or write-ups about the aftermath. Now, the tornado this video is focusing on is a very obscure F5 tornado, and one I'm stunned isn't talked about more, given the details I read about when researching this, and just how intense the tornado was. So, today I am going to give it the attention it deserves, and tell you all the story of the tornado that destroyed Jordan, Iowa in 1976. This is not going to be a long one, but it's going to be one that I definitely think is worth sharing. Ted Fujita described this tornado as the most intense he had ever studied up to that time. It was the afternoon of June 13th, 1976, that the tornado hit. It touched down approximately at 3:30 p.m. local time, southwest of the town of Luther, and it began to move to the northeast right away. As you can see from the image, the tornado quickly grew large as it carved a path across the countryside. And as it grew in size, it grew in strength too. As it approached Highway 30, it turned more to the north and headed towards Jordan. The massive tornado was at F5 strength when it hit. I was 6 years old when our car was caught on the open highway in the direct path of this F5 tornado. We were in Boone. The sirens went off, so we tried to make it back to our farm west of Gilbert. I remember seeing the F5 through the windshield coming straight at us. Then I watched out the sidecar window as a smaller, more nimble tornado started twisting across the field. We ran for our lives into the nearest farmhouse where the family rushed us into the cellar and fed us bottled Pepsi and powdered donuts. A kid never forgets a mile-wide tornado or the snacks. What Becky Jensen and others described seeing there was the satellite tornado. This beast, the main F5, was not alone. It had a friend, which alone was also rated at F2 or F3 strength. I've seen different sources mention it being both. Maybe it intensified or weakened or wasn't rated with certainty, I'm not sure. However, what I do know is that the main tornado was rotating cyclonically, but the satellite, powerful tornado in and of itself no matter the rating, was rotating anticyclonically, which just makes it all the more strange. The satellite tornado accompanying the main one was about 2 miles to the south of the main funnel as well. And either way, the tornado satellite came back around the main funnel north of Jordan at about 3:50 p.m. However, the main, almost mile-wide wedge raked through the town and destroyed almost every single building in Jordan. Let me say that again. Virtually every building, every house, every business, every barn, every garage, everything. Virtually everything that was built by humans was obliterated by the F5 tornado as it passed over the community of Jordan, Iowa. An entire community wiped off the map and swept away like it was never even there. After passing through Jordan, the tornado and its satellite turned north-northwest, but outflow from another storm then pushed the tornado back to the east. Finally, the parent tornado began to shrink and lifted about 4 miles to the west of Gilbert at 4:15 p.m. It was only on the ground for about 45 minutes, but for most of that time, it was an incredibly intense, powerful tornado that, in my opinion, should have gone down in the history books as more than a mere footnote. In my opinion, it should stand amid its more famous F5 peers. Unfortunately, it wasn't over just yet. Mother Nature had a postscript lined up too. The downburst wind that pushed the tornado east rampaged over the countryside of Story County near Gilbert like an unstoppable monster in and of itself, striking the area with intense straight-line winds, knocking down trees and damaging more structures. Thankfully, no one was killed in these winds, and there were only a few injuries reported as a result of them. The aftermath of the storm overlooked a ruined community. And as I said, Ted Fujita said the damage left was, at times, the most intense and destructive he had ever seen left by a tornado. In the review, it was also noted that the right turn the main funnel and satellite made was unusual. It was also noted that the tornado happened early in the afternoon and overall earlier than is normal for summer tornadoes in Iowa. What it essentially came down to that day was determined in a 2012 study to be subtle forces acting with an extremely sensitive situation, and it was able to spark a destructive fire. The ingredients just came together in the very worst way possible. It really seems to me that this tornado happened, hit, and was over before people knew it. And it's not even just the lack of details about what it did. We can chalk that up to it traveling through a rural area and not hitting a bigger city. But it's just the stories people have, I just get that vibe. A lot of them say, we saw the tornado and then it was gone. I mean, it's good that it mostly tracked through a rural area and there was no large-scale catastrophe to talk about with it, because if this went through a larger city, who knows what would have happened. 2 tornadoes, 3 according to some witnesses, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence of a third one. Hitting a heavily populated area, not even a huge city, just a downtown, just a small town. In a way, we can almost be thankful there isn't much to talk about with this one. In a way, it wasn't another Joplin or Xenia. It was, however, a monster to Jordan, and that shouldn't be overlooked just because it hit a low-populated area. It needs to still be respected and talked about, and the people it impacted needs to be remembered. For them, the people of Jordan, even though the details are sparse, this was a nightmare come true. And it is a nightmare that I don't see talked about much, and I hope you learned something today about this overlooked, massive, intense tornado that, I know I've said this before, but honestly, this one in particular just sounds like something straight out of an over-the-top Hollywood movie. This sounds like something we'll probably see in Twisters later this year when that comes out. But it wasn't an over-the-top Hollywood tornado. This was a very real one, and we have to remember that. These were real people it dropped down on, so let's remember them. Thankfully, all the residents of Jordan survived. The damage path left by the tornado itself was over 21 miles long.